Good afternoon. My name's Anthemos, the CEO of Zumper. Zumper is the new way to search for and close your ideal apartment rental. It's not rocket science to say that apartment rentals are really broken. To show you just how broken they still are in San Francisco, last weekend we held an open house and filmed what happened to see what tenants would do to find their ideal apartment. Here's some of the footage.
So the thing is, there's a lot of people who want the apartment, and like everyone is financially qualified. So
Here we go.
So the thing is, there's a lot of people who want the apartment, and like everyone is financially qualified. So one of the things that we're looking for are people who have a special talent, you know?
Are you serious?
Yeah. If you could act out a scene from like a movie, there's a very good chance I'd give you the apartment.
That was the heavily edited TechCrunch-worthy version. There was far worse. As you can probably tell, I'm not from here. When I moved to the States, I found it incredibly difficult to find an apartment. First of all, I had no idea which neighborhood to live in. There's fantastic neighborhood content out there. It's just not very well tailored towards a tenant. Second, when I found something that looked good, for example, this listing for over $5,000 for 2 bedrooms, I couldn't believe that you get no photos and 2 lines of text. And finally, after searching for days and weeks, I found the ideal apartment. I clicked through. We've all seen it, the 404. The listing had expired. There was no lifetime data. And this isn't the only problem. When you look in New York, our favorite listing site, Craigslist, has 40,000 listings for annual apartment rentals online at any time. That's an enormous volume to trawl through. But what's even more frustrating is that there are only ever 7,000 unique listings on Craigslist. The difference is explained by repostings and by spam. This is not just me that's frustrated. In the States, there are 40 million tenant households, 100 million unique tenants. In big cities like San Francisco and New York, there are 6 out of every 10 apartments a tenant is living in them, not the owner. So this is an enormous market we're going after, and Taylor, our COO, will now show you our product and how on Zumper you can search for and close an apartment rental in under 3 minutes.
So the first thing you're going to notice is that all the listings on our map, they're all curated listings. We're not scraping. We're working directly with property managers, brokers, landlords to get all of our data. And the advantage is that we can show you listings that are real, that are live, and we refresh constantly. So you can actually search by the hour. Now, I'm going to be moving to New York, actually, so for me, and I know you all might have felt the same way when you're looking to move to a new city, it's hard to figure out what neighborhood to live in. With that in mind, we actually created neighborhood pages. And so I know I'm going to be working in Chelsea. If I were to take a look at Chelsea's neighborhood page, I get a feel for the neighborhood by looking at the videos. We curate content for all the neighborhoods that we have listings in. And I can also see listings as well. So I get curated content alongside curated listings. And so if this is a neighborhood that I like, just like Twitter lets you follow people, we can also let you follow neighborhoods. And all the neighborhoods you follow appear in our newsfeed. So the newsfeed, this is a really cool way of searching because you can search on a map geographically, but at a certain point, you want to get really specific and really tailor your search. So we let you do that. All of the listings that appear in your newsfeed are from neighborhoods that you're following, and so you only see the stuff that really matters to you. And if you find an apartment that you like on 34th Street, you get to the listing page, and now we realize that once you've found an apartment that you like, the next step is getting to see it and being the first to see it, especially a place like San Francisco or New York where it's really competitive. You really want to be the first one through the door. So we created a messaging tool that lets you get some advantage. Because what brokers and landlords really care about it's not just the quality of the tenant, but that you're financially qualified for the apartment. So if you are, might as well just share that. Just a few pieces of information and to help you get through the door first. We've tested this out. It's also helped people close apartments. It's a really useful tool. Also for a landlord or a broker, if they come into the site, they can actually review the profiles of people who are interested in the apartment to make their decision based on what they're looking for. So for them, it's really efficient. It's a really efficient tool for them. So to recap, what we have is a neighborhood page to help you discover new neighborhoods and browse local listings. We have a news feed to help you get a really tailored, specific search and just see the stuff that really matters to you. And then we have a messaging tool to really help you close that apartment so that you don't need to do the song and dance like those guys did in the video. Yeah.
Cool. So that's Zumper. To reiterate, this is really hard. We're building this bottom up, not building a meta search site, so it's going to take a while to do this. But what that does mean is that our data is live and our data is very accurate. We're working with the top landlords, brokers, and property managers to do this. The market is enormous, not just in terms of the 100 million tenants, but look at tech companies in the space. Zillow, a very successful, over $1 billion market cap, and Trulia, again, shooting for a huge IPO this year. And finally, we've been live in Manhattan in a private alpha. And by the time we leave this stage today, we'll be live in San Francisco as well. So get onto Zumper, check us out, and thanks for listening.
I think this is great. I mean, I think it's a big problem. My question is, I've looked at this problem a bunch of times, and it's huge, but a lot of people are looking at this problem. A lot of people are trying to solve this problem. And from my understanding, there's a lot of people trying to, already doing this. What's your competitive edge? What do you have that these guys don't have? How are you going to be the displace Craigslist? Basically, that's your number one competition.
That's what we're shooting for.
And so I guess the question is, what do you have that all your competitors don't have?
So, and to be clear, when I moved here, I used some of our competitors that have, meta search, like PadMapper. I thought it was great. I used it. But we think building bottom up gives us sustainability. We own the relationship with the landlord and the broker. We haven't aggregated their listings. And what that gives us is live information, a sustainable relationship, and ultimately an ability to monetize, because we'll always offer tenants a free service, always offer listings free for our supply side. But when you own the relationship, there are various things you can do. For example, offering the ability for a landlord or broker to promote a listing to a specific tenant or tenant demographic. The advantage is that we know our customers. So although it will take longer because we're not scraping onto our site, we think that when you build bottom up, it's more sustainable.
How do you scale? Because you are building it from the bottom up. You're talking to landlords, brokers. That takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. You have an amazing, UI. It looks great. It's a lot.
So Taylor can answer this as well, but to start, we just need to get to liquidity in 2 markets, New York and San Francisco. The business side of our startup come from real estate backgrounds, so we've met a lot of the senior kind of landlords and brokerage clients. We now need to look at the mid to low end of the tail and the mom and pop landlords as well. Taylor, do you want to jump in as well?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. We're not expecting to have as many listings as Craigslist overnight. It's going to take a long time, but we feel that our relationships are really valuable, that we've established in just a few months. There's still a lot of work to be done, but what we've found is once you sign up some of the larger clients, the other ones want to join, and so we're seeing a lot more signups recently than when we first got started. So it's really on us to just keep that going. And we have relationships with different affiliations too that so we have memberships with the San Francisco Apartment Association, things like that to really help get us more listings on the smaller landlord side.
I think it's cool to show something about the neighborhood and educate people about the different areas and have the pictures, and that feels like a good use of the visual web for that. I think one of the typical traits for a good business is repeat customer transactions. And when I think about kind of how people are in the market for real estate, it's a very kind of every year, every couple of years. I'd love to understand the economics of the business a little bit more in the context of that.
In the context of repetitive transactions, I think, yeah.
And what it costs to acquire a customer, what the value of that customer is, how you kind of...
Sure. The value is just acquiring tenants who are kind of organized and ready to move and have their stuff together, and we're going to build a couple of tools in the future that help us move towards a tenant actually going further down the transaction so that they can really provide the broker or landlord some information that will help speed things up. The way we acquire the customers is it's a very seasonal business, apartment rentals. It's very hot in spring and summer. You get the same people graduating college, grad school, they're moving. So this year, for example, when we launched the alpha, we had brand ambassadors at all the colleges using our site, giving us feedback. This is something come like next year that we're going to go after in a big way.
Target populations that you know are in transition.
It's an obvious launch market. At the end of the day, we want every professional in kind of a major city using this site.
So I'm still hung up on differentiation. I mean, I know you asked the question, but I still am, users they care less about whether you're scraping or whether you have broker relationships. They want volume, they want to be able to look at an entire city or an entire neighborhood. And I'm still trying to get a feel for how you're going to differentiate with the consumer. Because the consumers don't care whether you scrape or whether you have landlord, broker relationships.
So one advantage that we've proven on a very small scale that we need to scale up is you're far, far more likely to hear back from the broker or the landlord on our site than on other sites, because we know the supply side. So this is someone who knows that they're working with us, they know we've curated their listing, and they're ready to respond to the tenants. So although we don't want to talk about any stats of that yet because it's so early, what we saw is much higher response rates for tenants on our site versus on a meta site.
Yeah, and in cities like New York, there's so much duplication with listings that it's just a really terrible experience to try to find apartments when if you could just go on the site and see it once and message the person who actually is representing the apartment, you're going to get a much higher response rate, and it's much more likely you'll close that apartment.
What are you guys doing mobile?
Make money, did you say?
Do you guys have a mobile app? Are you guys
Oh,
mobile
sorry,
web?
mobile.
Are you guys?
So the next obvious thing is a mobile app. We'll have the map there. Obviously, the news feed that's the kind of Twitter for apartment rentals is a no-brainer on mobile. And it's something we want to build because we have direct data. Is, for example, if I'm looking in the mission from my apartment, I should have a mobile app that just tells me what open houses there are today. Like, that should exist. So I can plot my map, see the 4 open apartments within the same hour. That isn't out there. The information is there, but it's kind of lost within a lot of noise. We want to pull that out. That should exist. There's a bunch of other stuff with mobile we're hoping to do in the next year.
All right. Well, that's Zumper.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.